If you're thinking about buying a home, your first instinct is probably to open Zillow, Realtor.com, or whatever app you use and start looking for houses. And I get it, that's the fun part. But that's actually not where I recommend starting. Because before you start worrying about granite countertops, backyards, or whether you can fit a king size bed in the primary bedroom, there are 4 things I want you to figure out first. And doing this before you start looking can save you a lot of time, frustration, and potentially even money. Hi, I'm Jamie Tolbert with Real Brokerage, and welcome to my home buying blueprint. I'm breaking down the entire home buying process into simple stages so that whether you're buying your first home or you just haven't purchased in a while, you'll know exactly what to expect. So let's start with step number 1. Before we talk about bedrooms, neighborhoods, or price, I want you to answer one question. Why do you want to buy a home? And don't overthink it. Maybe you're tired of renting. Maybe you want to start building equity. Maybe you're relocating. Maybe you need more space. Maybe you need less space. Maybe you're getting married, starting a family, going through a life change, or you simply feel like you're finally ready to own something of your own. Your reason matters because it becomes the filter for almost every decision we're going to make later. For example, let's say you're buying because your commute is taking over your life. Well, now location may be more important than square footage. If you're buying because you're working from home and need more space, maybe that extra bedroom or dedicated office becomes more important. Or maybe you're buying because you want to stop renting and start building long term wealth. In that case, we may look at the property a little differently. So before you do anything else, finish this sentence. I want to buy a home because that's your starting point. Now let's figure out what you actually need. And I want you to make 3 lists. Your first list is your must haves. These are things the home really needs to have for it to work for your life. Maybe you need 3 bedrooms. Maybe you absolutely have to have parking. Maybe you have a dog and you need that extra outdoor space. Maybe you work from home and you need an office. Your second list is your nice to haves. These are things you'd love, but you could live without them. Maybe that's a remodeled kitchen, a swimming pool, a huge walk in closet, certain architectural styles. And then there's the list people forget about. Your deal breakers. What would make you immediately say no to a property? Maybe you don't want stairs. Maybe you don't want a long commute. Maybe you don't want a major renovation. Maybe a particular location just doesn't work for you. Knowing what you don't want can sometimes make your home search even easier than knowing what you do want. And here's the important part. Don't put 15 things on your must-have list. If everything is a must-have, then nothing is a must-have. Try to narrow it down to about 3 to 5 things that truly matter to you. This next one might save you more frustration than anything else I tell you today. Your perfect house probably doesn't exist. I know that's not nearly as fun as what you wanted me to say, but most buyers are balancing 3 things: the house they want, the location they want, and the budget that they have. And getting a perfect 10 out of 10 in all 3 categories isn't always realistic. So here's an exercise I like. Would you rather have a 10 out of 10 house in a 7 out of 10 location, or a 7 out of 10 house in your 10 out of 10 location? There's no universally correct answer, but you should know your answer. Because here's the thing. You can change countertops, you can change flooring, you can remodel a bathroom, you can add paint, lighting, finishes. You cannot pick up the house and move it to another neighborhood. At the same time, another buyer may care far more about the actual home and be perfectly happy going a little farther out to get it. That's why we're figuring this out now. When you know where you're willing to compromise, you become a much more confident buyer. Instead of walking into every property asking, is this perfect? You're asking, does this home give me the things that matter the most? That's a completely different way to shop. The last thing I want you to figure out is when you actually need to move. And I want you to separate your timeline into 2 categories. You'll have fixed deadlines and flexible deadlines. A fixed deadline might be something like your lease ends, you're relocating for a new job, you sold another property, your children are starting school a certain date. Something is happening in your life that gives you a real deadline. Then you have flexible timing. Maybe you'd like to be moved by summer, but nothing terrible happens if it's September. That's very different. And knowing the difference gives you and your agent the ability to build the right strategy. because somebody who needs to move within 45 days is going to approach the market differently from somebody who's willing to wait 6 months for the right property. So before you start looking at houses, I want you to know four things: why you're buying, what you absolutely need, what you're willing to compromise, and when you actually need to move. Once we know those things, then we're ready to talk about the money. And that's exactly what we're going to do in the next video. We're going to talk about how much home you can actually afford, why I don't want you shopping based only on the purchase price, what pre-approval really tells you, and some financial mistakes you absolutely don't want to make once you start the buying process. If you're thinking about buying a home, subscribe and follow along with the Home Buying Blueprint. And if you're already planning a move and you'd like help putting your strategy together, reach out to me. I'll see you in the next one.